Okay, it seems like we have managed to make it live. I just need to double check that the audio levels are actually correct. And we can start doing some Thwimbly development. Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll drop the music audio just a little bit. I think that should fix it. Layer on the side of being a little bit quieter. Okay, I think it sounds good now. For reasons I don't entirely understand, every time I restart OBS, it just completely resets all of my settings, which is just delightful. Just delightful. So, coming into this, honestly, I'm not really sure what all my microphone is trying to escape off into space. Give me 1 second. So, coming into this, we have a handful of things we can do. We're still in World 2. We still need to finish level 2-3. That's a big task we got to take care of. I'm still also not happy with 2-4. It is passable. I mean, it's ugly, but it is technically a level and it is technically complete. I want to reset this section of 1-2. I want to fix that at some point. It's just kind of a waste of space. This whole kind of section doesn't really do much. I mean, there's the checkpoint. You have this one little looping section here, and then it's basically the end of the level. Like, the level's so short, we need to get rid of that. You know what? I'm just going to take the initiative and just do a heckin' delete. Yeah, I'm not happy with this section of the level. It needs to be more interesting. So I mean, we got about 4 screens worth of content to change up there. Why does that look so messed up? This is World 1 stuff, and World 1 is pretty much constantly in flux. It's always adapting, always changing. So that's gotta keep adjusting stuff. So we could do any of that. We've got a handful of level design things that we could take care of, or I mean, this transition between the dark and light sections is also pretty ugly. But could also start messing with the world. You know what? I want something that's less. Hold on, no, come back. Where did the... We'll go back to something that's got a little bit less hi-hat action. Go back to the old classic Harpuia stuff. So what we were doing on stream yesterday was we were working on this guy. This is a big boss, and added a bunch of stuff to the graphics to make it look a little bit more intimidating and detailed, and we added that collision where you bounce it off and it kind of it can kick the head back depending on what space it's in. So we could continue doing that. We've also got Marie, the World 2 boss, needs to get finished. You know what I think would be the right move? Let's incorporate all of the death stuff so that we can actually delete this boss and defeat it, and then we can actually kind of put it into the proper area and start tuning the boss. So what I want to do is I want to find is it in boss damage or is it in... No, it just hurts the boss. Death Anim. So we'll have to call this in. We're looking for Monchzilla. We got 249. Oh, because it's got a capital M. That's why it's not showing up. That's awesome. We'll do this at the very end because I want it to draw in front of everything else. So that basically we're going to be doing a very classic, almost Sonic the Hedgehog style, like Sonic the Hedgehog styled boss explosion. Oh, come on. I keep hitting the wrong offset. Okay. So I want it to be... I mean, we can... So what I need to do is... Okay. So here's all of our boss logic. Some of these indents are just absolutely destroyed. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're checking to see if the entity health is nil, and if it's not nil, and like if it's actually been instantiated, I still need to get the okay. So that means that it's actually that's the death. So it is currently died. Okay, why is death animation not actually triggering? That is the question. So it spawns a bunch of particles at the XY coordinate, plus the offset, I hope. No, just ents.x. It draws a big circle, spawns a bunch of particles, it does some triangles, that's it. Oh, is it based off of the ent.count variable? Is that why? Yes, it is. Okay, so I need to set ent.count to 0. So we'll go to dying. There it is. Actually, wait, hold on. We can simplify our lives by changing ent.health to 1. So it should only take 1 hit to take out this boss. That is if I can actually hit it. Okay, so we did the thing. Okay, so yeah, okay, so it's ent.state. That is the correct one. And it is dying. Okay. So if ent.health is not nil and it's less than 0 and the state is not currently dying, then we set it to dying. And we set the ent.count value to 0. Maybe I put this in the wrong place. Maybe we need to do this where okay, so this is where we check the head collision. Where do we set the boss health? Well, no, I can see that it's dying. Not capital D. The bigger problem is that let me put it in death animation. So when it dies, we should hopefully see the death animation flag printed to the terminal. True. Where else do I have on? Okay. So that's curious. So that's the only one. So the true is a leftover print from yesterday's stream. So it's not actually calling death animation or death anim. So why? Dot state. You know what? I'm curious. Let's get rid of this qualifier and let's see it should just start exploding immediately. As soon as, I mean, even now it should. Okay, so it's just not being called. Why is... Because I put it in the wrong if statement. Mask off area, okay. Thorn spike is the little projectiles. That's my bad. That's yet another reason why if I had to do this again, I would absolutely not put everything in a giant series of if statements. That's pretty cool. That is what I wanted it. It's what it's supposed to look like. It's what all the other bosses have. So what I want to do now is I want to actually separate it in so it's dying, dead, and pre-death. Because what I would like to do is I want this death animation to dot jy minus and dot y. So this should spawn the explosion at the y coordinate of the head, which I think it will do. We'll have to see. I think I put it under the ground. It's still under the ground. Int.jy minus int.y. Oh, I should have used the distributive property. There we go. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna make some adaptations to death anim. I do not understand why the spawn particle does not utilize the offset value. That is extremely curious. I do not know why, but now the particles should be spawning from the offset zone. I guess for all the bosses, the offsets are very small. They've typically been like 20, 30 pixels max. There we go. This one is absolutely gigantic. It's so much bigger. Okay, so that's good. I want to go to where it changes to dying. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This one. This is the Monchzilla one. So I want to change it to, we'll split this into two if statements. Something about the way Lua handles if or. If, ors, and ands all at the same time really trips me up and causes I haven't quite figured that one out yet. Pre-death. Then end. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a separate pre-death state where it will return to sort of like a dying pose at the beginning, and it will sort of so we're gonna add this pre-death state. Pre-death. So I want this to, we're going to set the position to .y minus 60. So this should like, I won't even mess with lerp speed. We'll just change this to 0.9 or 0.8 because I want it to be very fast. So now it should like snap back to its sort of like starting position. So it should be like relatively vertical. Wham. And then I need to give it like a... I need to set the... int dot... So this is for the keyframe system for the head. So we'll set the previous shape to the next shape. And then we'll set next shape to dying next shape. And shape keys, we need to have a new one that is dying. And just to make sure that it's working properly, let's just add a 0 onto the end of all these. So it should just, once it's dead, the head size should expand to astronomical proportions. That is what it is. That's what I was expecting it to do. It doesn't look like it, but okay, so what I kind of want it to do is I want it to be like looking upward. I want it to be looking upward and doing some sort of like mouth open dying pose. That's an A. Okay, so we're starting at 0, 0. This is the jaw pivot point. That doesn't change. That won't change. So this is -15, -54. This is the top of the jaw. This should change to being a positive number. So these are offsets relative to the jaw pivot point. So we draw one at the jaw pivot point, then we go -15, -54. We have the second vertex of the triangle, and then we go to 27, 31, and we have the next vertex of the triangle. So what I need to do is, instead of going -15, -54, this should be like 15, 54. It is what it is. 27, 31. Oh, this is the webbing. I thought, yeah, I should have been reading. This is what I get for not drinking enough caffeine this morning. Top of head. 15, 54, -63, -42. -63, -42. I want to... You know what? Let's swap these. So it should be... It's on the right side now, and the relationship should be inverted. So it should... The point of the top of the head should be pointing down. And then this jaw, I want the 27, 31. Okay, so this one matches with this one. So whatever I do to this one. Actually, the bottom of the jaw might be fine to leave. I don't know. Let's see it. Let's see what it looks like. That's one of the shapes it could be. What did I do wrong? Did I get... So we pulled the open. That's fine. I don't understand. So let's, I'm going to just snag the, not the close, actually the close is probably fine. Negative 2236. Oh. Okay. So the left part, the darker side of the jaw should just be totally chill now. It should be as expected, I think. Yes. Okay. That is basically what I wanted. I think I'm going to try and push them to be a little bit more up. But the right one needs to be top of the head. So this is 1542. So let's do, honestly, flip it. 4215. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm manually plotting triangle points. And it will automatically interpolate to these points. 63, 54. 63. So this is the tip of it. So the way I did this originally was I plotted them in Asaprite, and then I was just like manually finding the offset points. But okay. So 6315 should be negative 10. It's an art, not a science. I don't like how it interpolates to that. But honestly, that's more or less what I was envisioning. Okay, so pre-def. Yes. Oh, okay, I do need to use ent.lerp speed. Where can I just yoink this? Okay, so we can do that. 0.8. Bam. Bam. Okay, so now it should move way faster. I mean, that's basically instant. It should probably be 0.6, 0.5. 0.5. Yeah, I think that's good. I need to make those little strands go away. They look good when trick shot. Is it just called strands? No. Okay, so we're looking for. Okay, I can get rid of. I still don't know what I want to do with the base. The original version of this. Let's actually see if this still works, because I programmed this like basically at the beginning before I did any of the boss logic, and then I turned it off. Yeah, it's this kind of just like ugly mess of circles. I definitely don't want to do it this way, so we can get rid of that. What we're looking for is 3 lines. We're looking for 3 line calls, not the tracer lines, not the thorn launch. Yes, it is this. If int.state does not equal dying, or no, that's an and. Boom. So that should get rid of those 3 kind of messy lines, but only when we're doing the only once it dies. No. What did int. Oh. Pre-death. Gotta get your variable names right, or your string states right, whatever. There we go. Let's go. That's the right vibe. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to do pre-death. We need to find where it says pre-death, and then we need to do the old faithful. That's not the right word. You know what? We'll give it 100 frames. It'll take 100 frames for it to kind of lerp into that position and then die. And but why not? Is int.ct perpetually being set to 0? That's what this whole if statement was supposed to avoid. Two. It is making it to 2, and it is not being updated anymore. Exactly what I was afraid of. Okay, so we're setting it to 0. This is occurring, I can tell, because we're going into the pre-death state, which is right up here. So int.ct, the count value, is just not being called, or is not being updated. So I wish this text was easier to read. Okay. There it is. What is the qualifier? And that's because this is no. What is this? Because that's this is assuming that all of my indentation is correct, which it almost certainly will not be because, oh my goodness, my microphone. This is why you don't buy $15 microphone arms. If I write stuff in Tick, each of these is either an indent or a space. If I write it in Sublime, indents are like, you know, a full tab. They're like 7 spaces or 6 spaces or something. So the indentation in this is all messed up, but it's a lot easier to stream this if it's all kept inside Tick instead of having to bounce out to Sublime. If I just get rid of this, this should not do anything. It should just freeze. Yep. Except not? What? So if I actually... So if I get rid of that line of code, the spawning system actually works kind of the way it's supposed to. Where did the squash go? The squash just disappeared again. Oh, it clipped through the wall. Oh, because I'm not supposed to be back there. It's pushing it towards the player, which means it's pushing it through the wall. And I don't have... Okay, that will never occur in real gameplay because the player would die the second they touch these. At least I hope it would never occur in gameplay. Okay, so that's why it was 2, was because it was actually moving 2 ent.counts counts per state. I need to get the spawning system working correctly. That's also something I need to take care of. See, the problem is I can't just Control F and .count and see what happens, because if I do, I get everything, because every entity has a count value. Let's check this. Let's make sure that that's not why the problem is occurring. Because if it's as simple as... Okay. Why so... Wait, hold on. Is that looping? 100, 101... Yes, it is. Greater than or equal to 100? Because it definitely should have been greater than 100. Oh no, what happened? So if health exists and it's less than 0, and the state is not dying or pre-death, then we set the state to pre-death. Trace called it. So we'll see if it's calling that chunk more than once. I have a hunch it is because okay, you can stop now. For whatever reason, the player's velocity is not being set to 0. It's being called every frame. Why? Okay, so we've got so it doesn't equal dying, it doesn't equal pre-death, then set the state to pre-death, and I mean, that makes sense because it's not actually doing anything. It's not setting it to the pre-death state. Okay, let's just get a little bit of separation there just to make that a little bit easier to read. Okay, so if ent.health does not equal nil and ent.health is less than or equal to 0, then if the state is not dying and it's not pre-death, then we set the state to pre-death and we set the count to 0. But for reasons unknown, this is being called every frame. And it's being called every frame. It's still being called every frame. Does pre-death trace ent dot health is the health actually dropping below 0 or is it being reset somehow? Called it ent.health, so ent.health is still 0. I guess there's no way for me to know if it's being changed multiple times in the single frame. This is one of those just kind of chuck the ball downfield and see if it managed. Ooh, okay. That is kind of funny. I do like how that looks. No. Oh. Did I use an or there? Darn it. Ah, there it is. It's got to be if it's not, if and, which means actually I can go back to and I can clean this up. I only need one if statement, which is good because the code gets nicer and it works better. So now, okay, that's a big guy. There we go. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. It doesn't look good and it's a little slow, but Actually, all this stuff is going to be slow because previously the count value was going up twice every frame. It was going up by 2. As opposed to it going up by 1. It was being added to twice. So everything is going to get... Oh my goodness, yawn. All the positions... Not positions. All of the states are going to take twice as long to move through. Ritual? I think that's the word I used. Yes. I don't remember. There's a... Is it... Trig boss. Boss mode is 2. It's because for some reason I'm not calling boss weight. Where do I set boss weight to true? Boss weight is being set to true. Mino Karate. P.vx equals 0. P.vy equals 0. Actually, no, I don't want PVY to be 0. I want PVX to be 0. So I want it to stop horizontal motion, but I want it to still fall back to the ground. There we go. Kaboom. Okay. Okay, so honestly, I need to figure out what I want to do now. Pre-death. Okay, we can get rid of this because we... Yikes, giant yawn attack. We can get rid of that trace. That's not necessary anymore. And this should be like 30. It should be like, oh yeah, 100 frames would be just under 2 seconds. Which now that I say that, I feel like it's significantly slower. That was taking... That feels like it's about the correct thing. If I had a more sophisticated animation pipeline set up, I would love to have the pedals like drooping. And they would sort of like as it moved into that last position. But I think 30 is too short. I think it needs to be 60. I think it needs to be like a it needs to be like a 3-state thing. You know, it's almost like hit stop. I was hoping I could. Yeah. Honestly, maybe I do a maybe we do this in 3 states. Is less than equal to 30. We do this. And then we do is greater than 30 and m.ct is less than 60. We need a then. Call this boss is the first one to use the shape key function that I made, so it's going to I should probably turn this. Maybe I should turn this into its own little function, and then I just call it whenever I need to change shape. I have at least one other boss that I want to use this shape key system on, so it's probably a good idea to there we go. So this is dying 2, and then we'll snag this. And we'll do dying. Okay, so the top of the head I want to be almost vertical. So the point I want to be at like 0. And that should be -60. And then this one should be -15, -30. Unexpected symbol. Oh, there's 2 commas. Of course, there's 2 commas. There's always 2 commas. There's always 2 commas when you least expect it. Okay, come on. Kablamo. Hold on. I kind of actually really like that. It's glitchy. 15, -30. So I need to fix that. But I do really like the sort of like ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk motion of it. I think that's really satisfying. Okay. I'm now beginning to wonder if it almost looks like mechanical. It's like a dying clock. Dying 1. Honestly, 50, 50, 100, 100. It gives the player something to look at and kind of draws it out, especially if like I want these bosses to feel like very dramatic when the player finally takes them down. Kablamo. Honestly, LARP speed's too high. It should be 0.2. I want it to kind of look like it's like sliding through them. But I also do not want to set up a proper Bezier shape key interpolation system. That sounds way more effort than it's worth. I do not remember what actually stops the explosion from occurring, because right now it's a supernova that's going to take out the entirety of the solar system. If I just leave it, it will continue to explode for all of eternity, which means I have to stop it. Trey's dying. So what I actually need to do is I need to do dying. If I could type it correctly. Dying 1, dying 2, and .state equals dying. So then I need to do else if int.state equals dying. Then we do this, and then we do everyone's favorite. If int.ct is greater than or equal to 100, then, so we'll give it, I don't know, that's 100 frames. How do I get rid of the other bosses? That's my main question. What am I missing? Because I want to have the extra control over when it dies. Boss mode is false. Spawn key Table.remove, go to skip end. Okay. I'm going to just copy this because there's enough little particulars that I would prefer to keep it as a separate... I prefer to keep it as a separate if statement instead of functionizing it. So these should be JX, JX, J. So these should all be the jaw pivot point. What did I do wrong? Okay. Minus 30. So it will get it up off the floor. Do I want it to be 60? I think I want it to be like 100. So it's a little bit more drawn out. We'll see. That might be too big. I want the explosion to cover the entirety of the entity, though, for sure. I think that's going to make it a lot nicer. It's a big guy. Throw the squash. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, explode. And that looked a lot better before I got rid of camera interpolation. What was that? Hold on. Something was very wrong there. Why was that clipping through the floor? I don't trust like that. Why was that clipping through the floor? Darn it. You only level transition once you touch the floor. If you don't touch the floor, you do not level transition. Okay. What's the other thing we need to do? We need to do it's boss text. If int.state equals weight. Nope, not that. Not that. Control F. Wait. Oh, wait, that has to go in draw, I bet. Yeah, it has to go in draw. I'll just do it at the top because then it'll be... Actually, no, we have to do it at the bottom because I would prefer... We'll see how it looks. Easy. How did I start typing easiest? I was trying to type weight. For whatever reason, I lose every ability to touch type when I'm streaming. I don't get it. Yeah, it would look better. Okay, so we're still using the Marie like announcement. I think so. I pulled that because I grew up playing Mega Man Zero, but it also I've also been playing a lot of shmup games lately. What was the one that I just played? Oh, come on. I just finished one. Danmaku Unlimited 3. Doesn't really have a plot like a lot of other ones do. But I was playing Ikaruga. There we go. Yeah. That looks good. So now I need to come up with Monchzilla. Of the factory. I don't know. I need to update that drop sound logo as well. That's another thing that's on my to-do list. I might do that on stream or off stream because it will require me to use Asaprite. Monchzilla, Scourge of the Factory. So this is going to be the boss for the factory zone, which I have not shown on stream or anything. Honestly, I mean, yeah, that's 90% of what I needed. Oh wait, hold on, I can combine this as well. Look at that. We're combining if statements like real programmers. And I can get rid of all of these. I can combine all of these as well. Oh wait, actually no, because I do want those to show up. Okay, hold on. That's better to keep as a separate if statement, I think. Okay. So honestly, I think my main question at this point is, what on earth do I still actually need to do? What is there left? So we got the boss like pretext in. I should make it do the little orbiting thing during the animation. We should do that. Yeah. You know what? I want that explosion to be faster, but and so it can get bigger during the same amount of time. Pre-death. So we'll do. So that'll go 4 seconds, or it will increment the counter by 4 per second, which I think represents 4 pixels of radius per second growth. So we'll see if this actually looks good. I also don't know entirely where I'm going to deploy this boss. That might be too fast. That's too fast. +1. Let's just double it. I did like the size that it got to, but it definitely went too fast. So let's do 2 and let's do 300. Monchzilla, Scourge of the Factory. Honestly, yeah, pretty solid. Death. Okay, yeah. So we'll put the hitboxes back in here, or at least those hitboxes. The player still does not die to the monstrous, gigantic, to the head. It still doesn't die if it intersects with either of the jaws. But that looks pretty good. It spawns the key, and the player can get out of here. Honestly, lerp, where's my... I'm going to get rid of this. I think... I've been going back and forth on whether or not I want the camera to follow the player smoothly. Like, I'll show you here. I think it is nice. I don't know. When I was working on my last Game Jam game, Pearl of Eden, it looked very nice and natural. It looked really bad if I had the lerp. I don't know if I changed some stuff or tuned it or whatever. I should probably just have that as a setting in the whole, just to turn it off, because it definitely does look nicer. Because like when this thing dies, it'll explode, kaboom. It will kind of zap back to the player, but it'll do it fast, but not instantaneously. if camlerp equals true, then else. Should these be variables in a settings menu? Probably, or like a settings table. Shake flash camler true. So no HUD is an option for honestly most of these are settings here. Low spec, actually I don't think low spec you can't change in the game anymore, but if I change low spec everything's going to be so ugly. Actually, yeah, look at the background. It's terrible. It's ugly. It's awful. And the game itself is going to look even worse. So this is basically getting rid of all of the background features. So no clouds. Why are tree circles still there? This was an attempt to make the game run well in the web browser because the WebAssembly overhead just absolutely destroys the performance of the game. It goes from running on hitting consistent 60 FPS at a 2016 MacBook to running at a quarter speed or a third speed. That did not actually fix it. The problem, I think, is just the amount of game logic that it needs to go through, because inefficient coding practices by someone who was not properly trained. And at this point, the game could be a lot nicer if I just went and rewrote the entire thing, but I'm not going to do that because I would like to finish this game and release it and move on and actually start something new from the ground up. Yeah, I mean, at this point, in the 5 years since I've done this, I've actually worked as a professional software person. I mean, in some capacity. I did controls engineering for a little bit, which was honestly pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Not text programming. It's all ladder logic. Simplistic stuff, even if it is difficult to do. It's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought a lot about, could I program an entire game in ladder logic? Would that even be possible? And the answer is, I don't think that would be fun enough to invest the amount of time it would require for me to figure that out. You know what? I'm going to give in to the distractions really quick because I have an idea. I think two things. One, why make this simple? Why give the player just a free path to jump through here? There's no reason. So we're doing it. We're changing up 1-1. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. That's nice and equidistant. So what we'll do is do something like this. Not this. Yeah, kind of like this. Oh, it feels really wrong to be modifying the first level of the game, but I think we can do this. We can do this. Yeah, so now then this will give the player kind of the opportunity to we're dramatically increasing the length of the first level. And by dramatically, I mean by 20%, but in a level this short, it's actually kind of a pretty big increase. So what I want to do is we'll get rid of this. We'll have the player kind of cycle around like this. Boing. And then they can come up here. Yeah. So then just to kind of guide the player a little bit more, we can snake some of these platforms around. I think this is also going to give it a much better feeling for kind of what the rest of the game is like, because I kind of started to develop a lot of these sorts of level design philosophies after I did World 1. Let's see, I don't need that. Do that. We'll clean all this up later. I just want to like block out the shapes. It would also be kind of nice to get a little bit more danger into this zone. So maybe we'll do this. And we'll have, there's only like 2 places where you can even die in this level. I guess there's this, and so we can check a little bit of this down. That'll also kind of incentivize players to like not mess up this jump. I'll open that up just a little bit more. So we'll yoink a couple of those. We'll do that. We can do that. Coins. Tuck this a little bit more into the corner so it's harder for the player to like loop back around. And then we'll give that. Then we can sort of, I want to make it look like it's sort of like a decayed, broken pathway or something. Let's see, I can do that. And then that. Yeah. So I kind of feel like a cave, but not like too much like a cave, if that makes any sense at all. I like having these caves where you can kind of see out to the outside world. I think that's a really fun vibe and aesthetic. That. We'll add in the drop shadows. The drop shadows always make these levels look more polished, even if they are ultimately not that polished. You know what? We'll have to move this up 1 because otherwise I think these will start pulling the dark shadow tiles downward because of the tile replacement system that I wrote, and I would prefer not. Okay. Yeah, it's already looking more like an actual proper level now. Do I need? Do that. Do that. Honestly, I've thought about this a lot, but I don't think these little interior tiles actually add that much. Like, as far as texture goes, they add something, but it's not. Is it worth giving up 4 precious tiles to do so? At this point, I'm kind of thinking no. I might just get rid of them because they don't add nearly as much texture or depth or any of that stuff as I would actually want. We'll do that just to kind of give us some like negative space. Wait, where? Did I get rid of those tiles? I used to have a handful of... tiles that... Oh yeah, I must have gotten rid of them. It's all the rock ones now. Wacky. In any case... I will move these over here. Add some texture. I think this does what I wanted it to do a lot better, which was sort of like incentivize the player to go through some unique paths. Yeah, I think that's the move. Let's clean this up because I was just kind of throwing tiles at the wall. I think that's how you check if a tile set's done. It's a lot like spaghetti. You gotta throw it at the wall. Do I have? Yes, I do. Okay. Is I could do a bunch of this. That kind of gives this area a little bit more like depth and shadow. It makes it look like it's actually kind of a place. I do kind of want the stuff around the edge of this to look a little bit brighter, almost as if the light is cascading through it and giving it more, it's sort of like this radiative bounced lighting. And then we need to do... There's so much stuff that I like thought I had in here that just like doesn't. Oh, that's actually a very useful tile for this specific circumstance. I don't know if I don't know if there's anywhere that I actually want to use it. That almost looks kind of decent. Yeah, it kind of looks like we're bridging into this. It's like a bridge built into the rock. You do that, and it kind of looks like it's decayed and dilapidated. That looks kind of nice. This one I think does look better with the rock there to kind of bridge that gap. The other ones I think I could take or leave. Yeah, because then that'll kind of make the player bounce. We could even throw something up here, maybe, if we wanted to. Yeah, this is getting somewhere. We need to add. I don't know if it actually does anything, but it kind of does look nice to have this like darker outline on some of these tiles. It feels like it just makes it a little bit more complete. Jury's still out on whether or not I will continue to do that for the rest of the game. But at least in World 1, I think it adds a lot of really, really nice texture and depth. And just to, like, make this a little bit nicer, I'm going to get rid of this border at the bottom, and because now this level was designed before I changed the way that the camera works. So now the camera locks at the horizontal and vertical boundaries of the screen. Originally, it was supposed to look like this sort of floating islands thing, which it kind of does still look like, but now I want it to be a little bit more textured, or not textured. I just want it to look like it goes all the way to the bottom of the screen. Which now this waterfall can go to the bottom of the screen. I can get rid of all those waterfall end tiles. I don't need them anymore, but that requires me to actually go edit the code so that I get rid of the animation code, which I don't think I want to particularly do. How much of this do I actually want to get rid of? Some of this is like really, really old that I want to kind of try and preserve. Maybe I'll keep this. This is like from the very, very earliest build of Thwimbly. This like little chunk of rock right here. I mean, it's been modified to make it easier because originally it was. Earlier I felt bad because of how like kind of very difficult it was. I'll do that. Okay. I think that kind of gets the point across that I want to make. back through there. You can loop back through there. I'll add in, not that. Kind of give that a little bit of that. Does that? It's fine enough, I guess. These are not necessary, these like little tiles, but they do serve to really break up the look of the rocks, and I think they do something. Whether or not I think they're actually like super, super important, I have not used them in any other worlds, but also World 1 is very short on graphics compared to pretty much every other world. And why that is just because I have not figured out quite how much stuff I want to do with that tile set. I don't know, I do like how this looks kind of just here. That almost gives it kind of like a little bit of, it's something. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but it does look kind of nice. We'll continue that one off the edge. And then I want to, not that. Yes, that should like continue off and look like it loops onto infinity. Okay, that's the new ending of 1-1. Let's, I now am realizing that I detailed the entire thing before finishing playing it, but do you think I need to tune these legs? I need to like go frame by frame so I can make them match the speeds. Okay, so you can see the big coins up there. You can't get through. Maybe it's a little tight. Maybe it's not. This should be a zigzag because I don't like that drop into oblivion. That should be a zigzag. But this feels nice. This feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's too difficult. You can see them. Actually, what should be done is those should be moved down so that you don't get clipped on the edge. That would make it feel better. I need a right facing. Sometimes I wonder if this game would almost look better if I got rid of the all the transitionary blocks and like just let the game live or die on the rectangles. There was some game that came out recently that did that. It's not EmuROM, though EmuROM, that's the wrong level. There was some game that was like really, really cubic. I can't remember what the game was. Ooh, caught that, saved it. Honestly, this one has never felt good to me. I'm going to go back and change that one. This one might also be too difficult for like a level 1 challenge zone that's like sitting right out in the open. Okay, we'll fix that. We'll change the zigzag. Yeah. That's gonna feel a lot nicer. Likewise, this one should also go down a chunk. But we got our coins, and then we can jump over here. Maybe I'll change that to just be like 120 coin. But this should definitely get changed to 20 coins. Because this is actually kind of difficult to get to, or at least kind of a pain. Okay, let's change this. I want this to go down a block. I feel like it probably says something about my age and my where I like. Hold on, let me rephrase that. I feel like it probably says something about my age and the gaming culture at which I grew up during, that I refer to tiles as blocks. So much of the early creative digital stuff I was doing was Minecraft. I spent most of my middle school years making Minecraft videos that were watched by nobody. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it really influenced the way that I like look at game design and game art and all that fun stuff. I think a lot about whether or not you could sort of how you can combine tiles and build systems and all of that. A lot of this feels like it's kind of pulling from the same well that like high level custom Minecraft pulls from, of repurposing tiles and trying to give the illusion of detail without actually having that many resources. Because like this is all of the graphics I have. I can add extra stuff using like prefab stuff, but that requires code, and code takes time. So I really try and give the most I can out of all these tiles. But honestly, this is a lot better. Honestly, I'm a lot happier with how this level turned out. You know what? We'll do that. That'll just kind of make this whole thing feel a little bit more cohesive. Yeah. And then I will push the goal back just a little bit so that the player has to like jump up. I'll do that. There we go. I think that'll make this feel a little bit more natural. That looks better. Okay. So that was one of the things I was going to do in World 1. We still need to deal with World 2. That's probably a challenge for another time. I might mess with that. I don't know. That's a question of when I want to do that. Do I want to do that today? Is that a tomorrow guy's job? Unsure. This would look better if I pushed it one tile down. Yes, it does. I do prefer the way that looks. You know what? Okay, here is something that I will do. I like adding these little alcoves where the player can collect a bunch of coins. I think that's really fun. I think that adds a lot of fun gameplay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of add like a little staircase here so the player can get into this, get out of it. Yeehaw. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go for broke and make it like the dark tiles, because it's gonna cause me problems if I try and mix and match the light and the dark tiles. I can mix and match some of these. The goal here is really just like give the player something to explore within the restrictions of the engine, because like I can only have the levels be two screens high, 8 screens long. So like let's just give the player like something to kind of look at, somewhere to go, somewhere to explore and experiment, and maybe this ends up not really looking good or feeling good, but at the very least there's something to do here. And money can be exchanged for goods and services, and by that I mean that you can use the money you collect, the coins, to purchase awesome, sick hats that you can wear. Actually, yeah, be cool. We should change up the hat. Sure, we'll go with the plumber hat. We can wear the plumber hat for right now. We'll skip watchers for now. Go over to Bird Sanctuary. Click back into Tick. Cool. Okay, so now the question is, what actually do I want to do here? We've kind of got this sort of circle where these are your options. These are your movement options. You got to grab the squash, throw it down here, and then what? And then what? That is the ever-present question. Could do... So really at this point in the game, we only have 4 mechanics. We've got the bouncy flower. We've got the deadly flower that can bounce on top of each other and will get bounced by the bouncy flower. And we've got the butternut squash that can be thrown, and it will bounce off the bounce flower. It will get hit by, or it will delete the deadly flowers, and that's basically it. And then you can jump and run and do all your basic platforming movement stuff. So my question is, what can I do with these? I feel like a lot of this section is pretty basic platforming. You know, it's jump over the deadly thing, jump over the deadly thing, jump over the deadly thing. We're not actually like taking advantage of the butternut squash all that much. And now that I say that, maybe I need to redesign more of this level than I thought I did. Honestly, let's let the player go on a rampage. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let the player go on a rampage. So we'll grab a bunch of this stuff. We'll give the player a weapon. In this case, a delicious, heavy butternut squash. Because if you're unaware, butternut squash makes a incredible weapon against carnivorous plants. That's the lore of the game, and I'm sticking to it. So we got the butternut squash. It's right here. I'm just gonna make a whole bunch of platforms, so we can have like a little alcove up here. I haven't introduced keys yet. That's 1-4, and I haven't introduced on-off blocks yet. So there's no way to like actually gate the player into needing to go check out all these areas, but like we've got the butternut squash. So we can just have the player just go on a rampage and just be like bam 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 bam. There's like 4 dudes he can just smash up. And then we'll just reward the player with coins. So we can have a coin over here. We can have a coin over here. We can have like, I mean, there's 40 coins right there. We'll have to have some way of getting the player up there. Usually in sort of like traffic areas like this, I like to have in order to incentivize the player to actually use the squash as opposed to just jumping over them, we'll have it be either a difficult jump that they'd have to be like very talented and trained to actually do, where they kind of jump over it, or they can just throw the butternut squash and it makes their life a lot easier. That's two. That's good. I try and keep 2 tiles between it, because like even though the player can technically hit a 3-tile jump, the 2 just feels better. I don't know how to describe it, but that's cool. That's something to do. And then what we can do is we can sort of have this. We can have this like sort of coming out in this sort of a shape. You know what? Yeah, we can have a death pit down here. We can have a death pit. What did I do wrong? Oh, I grabbed the second tile. That's why. Only the first one is actually used in the tile set. The next set is just purely animation frames. Do that. This should maybe be swapped out for the lighter chunk of the tile set. That's one thing that I don't know how much I actually want to deal with it. Because none of the other worlds have enough colors and enough texture to actually do like sort of that level of baked lighting. Do that. And then rampage time. Do that. And if the player accidentally throws a squash out of the world, it's fine. It'll just teleport back up to the original spawn location. Which I don't know if I've actually told the player that that's an option, but it is. It is an option. It is. I mean, either way, even if the player is like, oh, well, I'm in trouble, and then they just like jump off, then it's not the end of the world, because the checkpoint is pretty close and they'll lose maybe like 40 seconds of progress, because these levels are by necessity very short. Is that cool? Yeah, I think it is. And then we can do that. Drop that by 1. Yeah, this is much more level design that's on par with like some of the more like adventure-y platformers. We're really giving the player like a sandbox to kind of play around in. I wonder, it'd be cool. Okay, you know, let's do this. Let's create something over here to kind of incentivize super players. I'll come back to that later. So what I want to do is, this game does feature shell jumps. You can shell jump with the squash. So what I'll do is I'll give a little bit of a floor here. Player can shell jump up there. Or they can do the sort of like slow way where, maybe I'll move this. Yeah, let's move this. Oh my goodness. Something about the stream setup has me constantly hitting the wrong hotkeys, and I don't know what it is. Normally I'm a lot better at touch typing or something. Okay, so player can get up here. They can bounce. What I want to do is I want to have like a shelf. I want to have like a shelf that the player must stand on. Player must stand on that to be able to jump up to here, and then they can make the jump up here. So they got to jump up here, then here, because we'll pull the floor down as far as it'll go. This is going to be like sort of another subterranean area, because I really like subterranean areas, and it makes a lot of this stuff it makes it easier to control the pathing of the player. Let's pull that out, and then we can do that, and then that. Yeah, and then it's and then we're basically at the goal. There's a lot of dead space over here, to the point where I'm not entirely sure what I should do here. Maybe actually, in the sense of making this more interesting, we can go up here. We can delete a bunch of that. This. We can move up. Move this all the way to the right. Okay, yeah. So we can do that. So then the thinking here is, player can jump up here. If they're skilled enough, they can do the squash jump up to here. We can throw some stuff here. Otherwise, they'll have to go the long way around, which I'm envisioning something kind of like this. And maybe we even do this, where this kind of has like a double challenge, where like the player can jump across here if they want to, and then there'll be all sorts of cool goodies over here. And if they mess up the jump, then boom, you're back down here. Have fun doing the trek back around. Yeah. I am going to. One thing I've always been kind of a little bit concerned about here is just the player can technically hit the flagpole and then continue floating off the side and die, because there isn't technically anything stopping you from exiting stage right. So we'll just put a big wall there to prevent that. The part where it gets just like a little bit chaotic. Do that. Yeah, I think that's good. This level's gonna be like 30% longer because this area had like freaking nothing going on. It was super short. I guess yeah, like there's nothing stopping us from just like continuing the rampage feeling of this area. So we can just have like a bunch of plants here. Throw a waterfall there. So I think probably the biggest problem that I have not managed to solve in this game is the difference between the actual entity type plants and the tile-based plants, because the tile-based plants cannot be destroyed. Which offers a bit of a challenge because I don't know how to tell that to the player. But we'll do that. You know what? Yeah, let's mix this up just a little bit. I want to, if this is going to be a speedrun strat, it should be difficult. So we'll put it over a pit. So if they lose it, then they lose the whole squash, and it's just gone. That's something, I guess. Yeah, so then like they could squash bounce off of that and then jump up there. Maybe we even make it a little higher. Yeah, that does make this a little bit easier, but that's fine. I'm not worried about these being kind of difficult to deal with. You know what? We have the technology. We can put more coins in here. Once again, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting distracted decorating before I finish the playtesting, but that's fine. Sometimes the decoration gives me sort of ideas. Actually, no, I liked how that was first. Bam, 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 bam. You know what? I haven't done this in a while. Could do this. Jump, jump, bounce, bounce over the chasm and onto the other side. I mean, like, you could just jump over here, but it'd be a lot more fun if you were to do this. And then you could... Whee! I don't know. Sometimes I like using the coins as a sort of trajectory marker. And then... That's not what I wanted. I don't know, let's give it a play. Let's see if it actually feels good. Okay, so we got the beginning of the level where you gotta go circle around, grab the butternut squash, throw it at some plants. This area should have more plants you can actually throw the squash at, as opposed to that. That's a bug. That's a bug I haven't seen before. Okay, so you can carry the squash with you the whole way, and then you can just kind of avoid that section. That's a little bit of a tight jump. I should give more room there. I mean, that's an easy jump to make. You don't even need the plants. That one I feel good about having more coins there, because like it actually is kind of a difficult throw to make. You have to like get some air before you do it. Or you could just die. That's also an option. Is this still a thing? Yeah, it is. So a bunch of this stuff I don't actually like. That's not good. This needs to be moved farther left so that you're less likely. You'll have more room here to grab it after you throw it. This needs to be all moved over. So that's an easier jump to make. And then this is just completely superfluous. Come on. I don't know if my keyboard's dying or what, but Command X just is not working today. Some of this is good. Some of this is all right. I like this part here. I think that's nice, kind of forcing the player to go around the long way. Yeah, we can even sort of have a wall here in the middle that sort of blocks the player from making that easier jump, and then, well, now you have to. Now you actually have to sort of engage with this. I like this. This is a good throw section. Get rid of that. I don't know. This section is probably going to take a while to sort of optimize. I don't know. Gameplay wise, I'm not happy with this part. I think this part is boring and not fun. I do kind of like this. It's let down by the fact that the room is an odd centered room. Well, the coins are even centered. They're two tiles wide. That part needs work. This part's kind of cool. I kind of like this motion of like the over, jump up, jump over, zigzag, back and forth across. I feel like this just kind of needs to get like decorated, and then it'll start to feel really polished. I like this throw. I think this needs to be farther back though, so the player actually has more room to make that throw. And then we'll sort of give the player a choice. Yeah, I think that's doing something. We can do this. We can do this. Fill that in. Where my we got these sort of windmills that will just sort of give us some life and some motion, which I think is always very important. We can sort of darken that as we get closer, add a little bit of the decoration. Just do all of that. Then, yeah, I think that's cool. We can Sometimes it's nice to have like a bunch of coins to collect, even if it's less than, you know, less than the big coin collective zones. I mean, and this one's basically free, so like if the player isn't feeling spicy enough to go for the other stuff, I mean, they've always got this one. You know what, yeah, let's make both of these sections be sort of the rickety wood built stuff. We'll sort of darken it. We don't need that much transparency here to kind of sell the illusion, and in any case it gets a little hard to look at when you have that much gridded transparency. It just kind of gets ugly. We can do this. Not that. That one looks kind of bad on the edge. We can do it over there though. That looks fine. And to sort of keep the greenery going, we can throw some of this in there. And then rocks. I want this all to be rocks. I think that works. I think that definitely works. Don't forget your drop shadows. Yeah, it feels like it's getting somewhere. I don't know how I feel about this zone, and I don't know what I'm going to put here, but this area I feel pretty good about. I do like how this one is shaping up. Which means I don't feel too bad about going in with the detail brush and adding in a whole bunch of these sorts of details. Why is that? I kind of do like that. I kind of like how that looks with the little alcove. Maybe I'll even make it a little more alcovey. And then do a whole bunch of this. I don't think I ever consciously registered how strong the kick transient is on this song. At least until now. Just to make that a little bit easier, do that. I don't even know how many times I've redesigned this, like, first world. It's simultaneously more than I think I remember and less than you would expect. But I don't know. In any case, yeah. Okay. This is getting somewhere. I don't know how I feel about this whole sort of hard line between the shadow and the bright spots, but it is what it is. Do I have a super dark fence? I don't. Why don't I have a dark fence? The way I do these sorts of shaded areas is I'll literally just take all the values and I'll just darken them. And I'll say, okay, that's now what it is. I think with, nope, come back here. This one, it would look a lot better if I were to sort of keep that definition on the edge. Yeah. It's something. I don't know. Where else am I using those tiles? Is there a place in here? That does kind of sell. It's subtle. It's subtle. Does it do that much over just having a dark tile? Yeah, it does. It does make it look more natural. Do I want... I mean, I have the tile set space for it. It's not like I'm running out of space that badly. So we can have a dark version of the... that feels more natural. Yeah, there aren't that many areas where it actually like comes up against underneath a tile. Yeah, I think that's cool. It's not like it's the biggest. It's not like it's the biggest placement in the world, but we can add some of these. I don't know if they're flowers or mushrooms, they're something, but I think they add some depth to it. What do I put down here? That is the age-old question that I still have not managed to answer. I wonder. Nope. I have a chunk of the old version of, what level is that? Oh wow, I never put the little nobbins on here. Does it add that much? No, but I have some chunks of the old version of 1-3 that could be cool to actually pull from. Could be cool to pull from that. Otherwise, I mean, just have jump across abyss is kind of cool too. Can I do? Honestly, I'm kind of surprised how much of this is purely opaque, to the point where we could almost just do that, and now it's like we've got a bridge across this sort of like cavernous zone. This is the part where we're starting to get kind of into like the impressionistic pixel art, where like it's just the rock textures, but it's got some sort of strategically placed like, what is the word? Fence textures. That is the word I was looking for. I mean, yeah. I'm playing with the light. I'm trying to make it sort of catch the light in a specific way. Not that. I need to be control seeing in the other one. Whoa. Yeah, did not mean to go into the music editor. Yeah. That's doing something. That is doing something. There we go. Bridge some of this up to the ceiling. Some of the other ones I'll cap off with the sort of rounded edges that'll make it a little bit easier to transition in and out of it. Do that. I like that. I think it pops off the background. You can see what's going on. You can see what you're expected to do. I don't think this is going to be that dangerous, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to add just like the hint of danger. So we're going to add just the hint of danger up there and hope. I missed a couple of tiles or pixels when I was making them dark. So we got this. The player's not even really in that much danger from it. But they're going to kind of be like, oh no, I got to be careful. And then they'll have to like kind of control their jump over this gap. We could even, if we felt like being very nice, give them sort of like a secondary thing. That also makes this feel a little bit more interesting. There's more stuff going on. Yeah, let's do that. I think that's the move. That's 100% the move. Still got this. I still don't know if I like this. There's not that much going on besides you just jumping between platforms. But maybe I just need to get over that and just say, you know what? That's how level design is. We're gonna live with that. Let's move that up so we have a little bit more room. So here's what I'll say. I don't particularly like this middle section. I think this is a boring use of space, and it feels chaotic and kind of just jumbly. This has some sort of a sense of like in and out progression. You're jumping from here to here. You avoid the plants. You have to jump over the pit. The pit is dangerous, but not nearly as dangerous, I think, as the player would. I think you could probably run off this and be fine. So, I don't know what I'm gonna do. This area kind of feels like a nice little like resting area. Like there's nothing going on. It's kind of like negative space, which I think is important. So maybe we come back to this some other time when I'm having a little bit more inspiration on what I want to do here. With that, honestly, it might be time to call the stream. I need to go track down some more caffeine. So let's just do a quick recap. Here's everything that we managed to take out in this stream. So we redid the end of 1-1, the very first level in the game, and we made it so you go down here, and then you kind of jump across and around and up. And it's a sort of zigzag thing that adds a lot more interest to the level than just jump from here to here to here to here to goal. We redid a bunch of level 2, so this whole sort of back section we deleted and restarted. So you jump down here. I'm probably going to get rid of this or at least majorly tweak it. You jump across this dangerous chasm with these rickety bridges, over the waterfall, then up and over these plants, through the zigzag, up, around, and then there's the goal. And then, actually, that's pretty much all the level design we did. And then we did a bunch of work kind of bringing the awesome World 6 boss into just to have a lot more detail to it. So we added that title screen. I mean, it was just using some of the functions that are already in the game. Oh. And there we go. Then we brought in the death animation and made it actually respond to that. So not bad for a couple hours of work. I'm pretty happy with that. We still need to tweak the boss a little bit more, but I figured it'd be a good way to sort of adjust and edit everything. Yeah, so I think that's probably where we're gonna call it. I need to go track down some caffeine. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I need to add some leaves here, or some branches. Well, sure. Yeah, that'll remind me later next time I see this to go and like pretty up all these trees. But thank you all so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, you can wishlist Thwimbly on Steam. It is Thwimbly, Thwimbly. It's coming to Steam at some point in the next year or two. Hopefully shorter rather than longer. Yeah. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'm out of here. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.